Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Divorced Woman's Guide podcast. I am Wendy, your host and your divorced woman's guide. I am so excited to be here with you guys today. And as a reminder, please do not forget to hit subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode that comes out every single week. And if you feel compelled and you love the show, which hopefully you do, you will give me a 5-star rating and write a review. I would appreciate it because then more people will get to see and hear my podcast. So today's episode, you guys, is inspired by actually an event that I attended just earlier today. And it has to do with what I wish I knew before I uttered the word divorce. And so some of what I'm going to talk about today, I don't think you've heard. And I say that because even when I talked about this today at the event that I was at, so many people came up to me and said, "Oh my God, I've never heard this before. No one's ever said this before." So you're going to definitely want to stay tuned. And if you have friends who are going through or thinking about divorce, this would be a really great episode to forward to them so that they can take a listen, because I have a unique perspective on what it is that I wish I did differently. So my first piece of advice is this, is you don't understand what happens when you even speak the word divorce to your spouse. If that word comes out of your mouth, it can very well be the date of dissolution of your marriage, which can impact you from a financial position. And so what I always tell my clients who come to me who are contemplating divorce is to just make sure that you are not throwing that word around loosely. Do not use it as a threat because it's just going to come back and bite you in the tush at the end of the day. But what you get to do instead is to talk to somebody who can help you, who can guide you. You know, I do a ton of this work with my clients who are thinking about divorce. And I will tell you that there are just as many who go back to their spouses as those who choose divorce. What I care about is that you are making the best decision for you based on what it is that you desire, the vision of the life that you want. And if you don't know what that is, then it's not something that you guys should be threatening or using as, you know, a weapon against your spouse. So just be sure to not throw the D word around loosely if you are unhappy. Instead of projecting your anger or your resentment towards your spouse, what I would recommend you do instead is to go into a support group. If you're in therapy, if you want to hire a coach like me to help you to figure out what is the best choice for you, that is what I would recommend you do instead. So I really wish I knew that, because for me, it was just like, it was immediate. I was like, I get out of my house. Like, I don't want you here. So much deception. And I threw that word around quite a bit. And literally it is the date by which everything started, from that day forward is when everything started getting separated. And in hindsight, I really wish I would have waited to say the word and done some work to get myself set up before I spoke it to him. So that's number one. Number two, and again, I share this with my clients, is I really wish that I had consulted a financial planner and had a better landscape of our finances before I went down the divorce path. And this is something that is so important, especially for those of you who maybe don't have visibility on your finances or as visible of, an idea of what your finances are: credit cards, joint accounts, individual accounts. It's important that you understand the landscape by which your entire marriage is going to be based off of. This may sound cold to some of you guys, but honestly, divorce is a dissolution of a business, right? It really is. It's a dividing up, and it gets emotional, and it gets, it gets hard. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I wrote a book, Divorce Sucks, Now What, for a reason. And so I really advise that you make sure that you are consulting with a financial planner, because if you're not, then you don't have a full landscape of what it is that you have and what it is that you stand to walk away with when your marriage is over. So that is something, honestly, before you even hire an attorney, I would talk to a financial person. And the other thing that I, again, did not do this, and I wish that I did. And the other easy way for you to even get a handle on your finances is to request a copy of your latest tax return. If you guys filed jointly and your name is on it, you have a right to a copy of it. And that is something that you can easily get. You can get it from your accountant if you feel safe calling. You can also get it through the IRS. You can call them. It's a lot easier than you think. And that's something that I didn't do. And so when it came time, I didn't have a solid foundation of our financial situation. And I was finding out about stuff along the way. And it's just one more thing that just, it's like everything. It was like new things kept coming up and I kept getting emotional. I kept getting derailed. Had I had a visual bird's eye view of what was going on, I would have been able to talk to my coach ahead of time and talk to my therapist ahead of time and my financial planner. And I would have had a lot more information to be able to make a better decision for myself. So there you go. That's number 2. And then number 3 is what I really wish I would have done is I wish that I had hired a coach sooner than I did to help me to create that vision of the life that I wanted after divorce. I was not making decisions from the lens of my future self. I was making decisions from an irrational place, from a reactive place, from either I want to stick it to him place, or even from a place of not necessarily having like a full grasp on what life was going to be like on the other side, both what I wanted and what ended up happening. And I find that if you don't have a clear vision, then you don't know what you're making a decision for. You don't know what it is that you are creating. You don't know what you're asking for. You don't know what to ask for. Let's put it that way. And had I had such a clear vision, I would have done it differently. There are things that I would have fought harder for. There are things that I would have conceded. There are things that I would have done different, like percentages across the board for certain things. And it wasn't that I didn't have good advice. I was leading with my emotions, which during divorce happens, and it's normal. However, that's why having somebody by your side is so important. I see this all the time to everybody, right? I wish I had me when I was going through my divorce 7 years ago. I wish I had me. I wish I had the hindsight that I do now. And that is what I'm hoping you guys are getting a little bit of from this podcast episode. And it's also what my clients get when they choose to do the work with me. The last thing I want to say, about this, what I wish I knew was divorce. And I know this, let me put it this way. I knew conceptually, right, that this was between me and my ex-husband, right? My kids had nothing to do with the divorce, and we really did keep them out of it, which to this day, best decision ever. My kids are amazing human beings and super well adjusted and great communicators and all that good stuff. But the lens that I didn't have fully clear was remembering that any decision that I was making had to include them, right? My kid, it's really about making sure that I'm set up in the best way possible to be able to not just support my kids, but to be a good parent to them during this process and on the other side, right? And so I think so many times we think that it's between us and our soon-to-be ex, but ultimately it is it's about your kids, right? It's like, oh, I'm going to stick it to him. And, but they're still going to be your co-parent, right? They're still going to be in your kids' lives if, depending on your state legal rules, depending on, circumstances. I know sometimes it's not always 50-50 or, maybe one parent is waiving more of their rights. And that's fine, but they're still your co-parent, right? They're still involved in your kid's life. And again, there were decisions that I would have made differently had I had that thought present from the beginning. Like, I really do wish that I had done things from the lens of remembering that this has to do with my kids. The last thing I'm going to say is that, and this, I guess, could be number 5 things I wish I knew was, I kept saying that I failed, right? My negative self-talk was rampant. And I wish that somebody had come to me sooner and corrected my language, right? Told me that my marriage failed, right? I'm not a failure. Instead of walking around and beating myself up, being in constant judgment of myself, again, those are part of what keeps this super emotional for you. And so I invite you guys to really pay attention to what it is that you are saying to yourself, because what's on the other side is so much growth and so much healing, right? I wish that I had asked for help sooner than I did. I wish that I knew I had a higher awareness, right? Something I didn't have, which I do now, right? Hindsight is simply having awareness. And so I hope that you guys learned something new in today's episode, and that, maybe there's other things you wish that you had learned. Share them with me. I'm curious to know what it is that you wish that you had known, or that someone had told you before you went down this process. And if you are somebody who is thinking about divorce, in the middle of divorce, or even on the other side and still navigating, don't give up. I really encourage you to just ask for help. This isn't something that any of us anticipate or plan for. And all I can say is that having somebody to be there for you and guiding you who's been down this path before and can help move you through the emotions that much more quickly, that's what I highly recommend to everybody. And that is one of the things that, I'm super gifted at, is being able to essentially see kind of like the blueprint of the vision of the life that it is that you want, and helping you break them down into smaller steps so that you understand what it is that you are making decisions about, what it is that you desire in all these different areas of your life, so that you and your kids are set up for nothing but positivity, success, and all the beautiful, loving, joyful things that I know that you want to create on the other side of your divorce. So thank you guys for tuning in. If you're not a member of my Facebook group, you need to join. It's called Divorce Rehab with Wendy. You can find me on all social media platforms. Definitely check it out. Follow me and join my Facebook group. I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of your day. Sending you so much love, light, and joy as always. Mwah. Bye, everybody.